how we gain that self-worth is it's nothing we actually have to do. It's nothing that we actually have to learn. It is things that we have to unlearn because society has taught us you are not worthy unless you get this beauty product. You are not enough unless you have this relationship.
We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers, stronger than
Hello, you lovely soul. It is so beautiful that you are here and that you're joining this amazing episode. My guest today is Chanel Vysohlid, who is working as a clinical counselor and as an embodiment coach. And in this episode, she shares like how she healed her eating disorder, how breathwork was part of her healing journey, and how you can get true self-worth from within to feel loved and valuable. The quality of the video is not perfect because, if I'm honest, I was sitting in the car in between appointments that needed to be done because I was moving to Bali. But I feel like it doesn't matter at all because the conversation was just so true, authentic, and raw. And I know that you'll learn so much from it. I also have an amazing announcement. I've already said several times that the morning routine is so important because it's truly like that's a time when you are still in your energy. That's a time when you can have an intention for the day, start your day intentionally. It increases productivity, lowers stress levels. There are just so many benefits of it. And therefore, I decided I'll do 21 days, a miracle morning, which means starting on October 3rd, I will do at 7 in the morning, Central European time, from Monday to Friday. Each time like a live session. And in this live session, I will give you some coaching input where you will learn about things like intuition, mindset, change limiting beliefs, like all these wonderful personal development topics. And then we'll do a meditation together. It's for free, so you can join anytime. You will not have to pay anything. I just want to give you this gift so you can establish a nice routine because it takes 21 days to establish a habit. It will be on YouTube Live and on Instagram Live. So if you're interested, I would love you to either hop on my Instagram and join there, and I will share all the exact details and the links there. Or alternatively, in the description, there is a link where you can sign up and then you'll get an email with all the important information and the link directly to the Miracle Morning. I hope you will join. I hope I have the privilege to start my morning with you. And other than that, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful time listening to this episode. Enjoy the episode.
I'm so grateful. Such a caring guest on the show today. Chanel, thank you so much for spending your time with us and welcome to Empowering Vibez.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm so excited too. For the listeners, you viewers who do not know you yet, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. So yes, I'm Chanel. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and I am an embodiment coach and clinical counselor. So my passion right now, it changes and it takes different forms, but right now it looks like breathwork therapy, which I can get more into later on. But yeah, breathwork therapy is where my heart is right now.
That's wonderful. Do we want to directly dive into breathwork, or do you want to share more about your story and you find your counseling and how you found your way to coach other people?
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you a little bit about my story. So when I was about 13 years old, I was diagnosed with an eating disorder. Even before that, I was a very hypervigilant child. I was very sensitive. Things maybe bothered me more than most kids. So for instance, if I saw somebody, a parent disciplining their child, I would start to take on the emotions of that kid. It's almost like it was happening to me. And I grew up. I was a gymnast. I loved being a gymnast at the time when I was younger. And yeah, I just, there's certain things, there's quite a few things that kind of happened in my life, decisions I made, choices I've made, that sort of led me down this darker road, this darker path. And throughout all of it, I was seeking support, seeking help, but nothing really stuck. So I started the Self-Worth Lounge, which first, when it first started, its focus was strictly disordered eating and eating disorders. And now it sort of branched out into something we call the holistic practice, which is counseling, coaching, as well as breath work and meditation. And then we also have services specifically for men and their mental health, because I think that is super, super important and totally overlooked. And then I have, like I said before, the breathwork therapy, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's bringing in breathwork and therapy to help heal the whole person. We do group sessions and one-on-one as well. Yeah.
I have so many questions that I don't even know where to start. First of all, do you want to explain what the difference between coaching and counseling is? So
yeah,
that would be amazing.
Yeah. So coaching really is working from the now. So working from the current day, the present day, the present moment, and getting the client. So when I coach, I call them clients, getting the client to where they want to be. Now, there are certain therapeutic processes like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is under the clinical psychology branch. CBT, it doesn't actually go back into your past. It also does work with the present moment and moves the human being forward in a way that works best for them. It works a lot with language, a lot with reframing, a lot with behaviors. And so you'll find a lot of coaching, they actually take the CBT sort of foundation and they bring it into their coaching. But essentially, yes, coaching is working with the now. I also find coaching, I really benefited from it because I found that with traditional counseling, you'd see your counselor every 2 weeks, but that was it. With a coach, they really kind of coach you through like in between sessions. They're there for support, and they make it really practical and very realistic. And I find it great for people who aren't ready to go back into their past to address those traumas. Some people just don't want to do that, and that's totally fair. So that gives them an option. Now, counseling is more treatment-based. It works more with diagnosis, which is like schizophrenia, bipolar, borderline personality, eating disorders. It works with more of a clinical diagnosis. Not to say that coaching wouldn't help that as well. It definitely does, but it's a very different area of work. Clinical counseling is what I'm familiar with, and it does work again with CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which again, like I said, it works from the present to where the person wants to go, but it also goes back into the past. It rehashes out old traumas. It does a lot of reframing. It looks at a lot of the belief systems that we have. What else am I missing? Yeah, like depending on who you're talking to, they're going to have a slightly different definition. But this is my understanding, and I love merging the two because I think both are necessary in an individual's healing. I think treatment is wonderful, which is addressing the symptoms, but I also think we need to go so much further than that. We need to address the whole person. And then with therapy, and then the breath work comes in, the meditation comes in, because that's the embodiment component of it. So that's not just, a lot of therapies is just talk therapy, which therapists are actually starting to understand more and more now. And we're actually tapping into the body, because we can do all the talk therapy in the world that we want, but the truth is that we all hold trauma and we all carry it in the body. So to kind of clean house, release what's in the body, and then go back up into the mind and then reorganize, reframe our beliefs. And we can kind of go from there.
Beautiful. Did you find this holistic approach that you're having with your clients through like your own healing journey?
Yeah, I found, I actually, when I went to school, I found it through schooling. So I actually started educating myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never tried this. And oh my gosh, I've never tried this. And they were more holistic approaches. I found that once for me, when I put labels on something, like I work with a lot of addiction. So they will come in and say, hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic. Or hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm whatever they're struggling with. I found that putting labels on things did not help me. And in the holistic world, we try to be very inclusive, and it's either fear, you're acting out of fear, or love. All the titles, all the disorders, all the clinical terms are kind of just, they're not relevant in this world. And that's what I love, because what happens is once we put a label to something, we separate ourselves from everybody else. And that in itself is isolation. And that in itself is its own illness. It's its own sickness. So I love the holistic because it just encompasses everybody. We all struggle. We all have our pains. Our stories, our narratives might look different. Our symptoms might manifest a little differently, but our beliefs, they're all stemming from I'm not enough. I'm not safe. I'm unworthy, which is so untrue. It couldn't be further from the truth, right? But they're all stemming from these core beliefs. So I learned the holistic way through my own education. And then from there, kind of teaching myself, embodying things myself. But it took me 20 years. I don't want it to take people 20 years to get to that point, right? So that's why I created what I created. Yeah.
This is beautiful. If you have a client coming to you, let's say and since you specialized on it, a problem with eating, an eating disorder, like what would your approach be to help that person?
So first, what I would always address when someone comes with me struggling with food, let's say bulimia, for instance, because that's something that those are the people I seem to attract, and it's something that I also struggled with. I will address the first thing that I will address is the food, because essentially the person, it's not about the food, but nutrition is important, especially in the beginning. So we would address the food, we would address the restriction, because usually with bulimia, there's binging and purging, but it's a cycle of restriction, usually first, binging, and then purging. And you can find yourself, no matter what you struggle with in terms of an eating disorder, you're somewhere on that spectrum. You're falling somewhere in that cycle. So yeah, we address the food first, we address nutrition. I try to get the client to eat more throughout the day, because that's usually what happens is there's restriction throughout the day, binging at night, and then the purging. And then I see how far I can go with them in terms of that before I call them toxic nutritional beliefs start kicking in, of like food equals fat on body, fat and food equals fat on body, scared of their hunger cues, right? So then I start addressing those components as well. But the restriction is usually what I address first, because we can do all the emotional, all the therapy in the world. But if we are restricting throughout the day, our primal brain, our limbic system is activated, and it'll just drive us to eat. It's a survival mechanism. It is our physiology, it is the way that we are made up. And we cannot change that. We cannot override that. So I want to get that part of the brain happy and peaceful and fed and out of the fight or flight. It'll help calm the nervous system, put it back into the parasympathetic nervous system state. And then from there, I can start addressing, like I said, toxic nutritional beliefs. I can start addressing the idea of perfectionism, because that is a big one that plays a role for a lot of people. Deal with emotions, beliefs, reframing. Then you can go into all that stuff. You can go into core values. There's so much you could do after that, but the first thing I really address is the food, and is the restriction, and the beliefs around restriction, and what that means for the individual. Like we tread lightly, right? We tread lightly. I don't expect them to get it overnight by any means. Sometimes we spend the majority of our time in that space. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
My experience is that most of these topics, and you even called your company the self-worth launch, like kind of like the root of many of these things is like lacking self-worth.
Yeah.
How can we kind of empower ourselves, like raise our self-worth, and kind of like feel worthy of deserving all the love, the abundance, the success, the health, everything we desire?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think first off is that our self-worth can never be found outside of us. And that is something that I'm consistently learning as well, is that we can have the house we want, and we can have the family, and we can desire these things, and that's okay to desire them, because we're human beings and we're in this world, and that's very normal. But it really has to come, we have to create our outer world with a sense of self-worth. And how we gain that self-worth is, it's nothing we actually have to do. It's nothing that we actually have to learn. It is things that we have to unlearn, because society has taught us you are not worthy unless you get this beauty product. You are not enough unless you have this relationship. We have to have the courage and the strength to go inward, to get a little silent with ourselves, maybe 5 minutes a day. It doesn't take long. Reconnect with ourselves. And that just in itself will start to remind your body that you are worthy, that this is a birth-given right, that you don't have to do anything to earn this. And then from that space, we can create the world that we want to live in. We can manifest what we want. We can do all the, whatever we want outside of ourselves. But to really feel that self-worth, we have to go inward. There is no way around it. And that takes courage and strength, and consistency too, right? It's simple in terms of, 5 minutes a day, like that's not a lot of time. But it is a practice, and it does take courage, because we have so much noise around us constantly. We have so many things that we can gravitate towards to make us feel better in that moment. But to become silent with ourselves and go inward, it can be a challenge, because we might not like what we see and what we hear at first. But yeah, self-worth it's something that I know for me, that I constantly have to bring myself back to. But knowing that it's not something that you have to actually go out and do or buy or try and find like it's lost. It's there. It's always been there. We were born with it. And depending on, I'm quite spiritual, so I use my higher self. I use the universe to kind of come in when I'm silent. It sort of comes in and it fills that missing puzzle piece that feeling of feeling off. If you ever feel off, it's usually because you're lacking a sense of self-worth, or your spirituality might be a little, you haven't really tapped into it. So I tell anybody, anytime they feel a little off, usually they want to go to the physical. So they want to go work out, or they want to go do things outside in the world. That's not wrong by any means, but usually it's because there's a part inside of you that is just needs a little bit of extra love, needs some airtime, needs a little bit of attention. So it's, yeah, to go inward, inward, whatever that means for you. When I say that, try it, and be consistent with it as much as you can.
I love this spiritual approach that I'm also teaching from. This, like,
Yeah.
you don't have to become something, because sometimes in the personal development world, it's so much this faster, better, and so on.
Yeah.
And makes you feel even in this whole personal development journey, kind of like it's never enough. And I love this spiritual approach of, you are whole, you are everything, and the only thing you can do is to unlearn, and just like the stuff that got conditioned through our childhood and so on. But within us, it's everything. The whole universe already exists within us, and we just need to let go of the parts that make us feel incomplete or in lack or whatever. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I saw an Instagram post that you recently posted where you talked about that meditation and breath work truly, like, changed you quite a bit. That's how I saw this post. Do you want to share about A, like what it did for you, and then B, what it can do for the viewer or listener?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I call it was like the love that I didn't know that I needed. You know, it was, it really reset my nervous system. Like, it built my window of tolerance. So stress is a very natural thing in the world, and it's necessary, right? But what was happening with myself and a lot of people is, like, if somebody looked at me the wrong way, my stress level would go up, or my worry would go up, and my window of tolerance, so what I was able to take, was very, very small. So what it did is, breath work and meditation, they work from an energetic level. But if you want to, which is science, like scientists always talk about, energy now. But it really worked with my nervous system, and it's neuroplasticity. Like, it's proven it rewires the brain. And so I was able to go from reacting to responding to then co-creating with the universe. So, for instance, if I hadn't eaten all day because I was busy, and I just, for whatever reason, I didn't meal prep, for, just life got in the way, things happen. What would happen before is, I'd go home and I would binge eat and be like, I can't stop. And I intellectually know the science behind it. So I almost used it as an excuse of, like, oh, I know my limbic system is in overdrive right now. I know I'm in the fight or flight. I can't stop. I'm just going to binge. Right. And then sometimes that would lead to purging. Whereas with the breath work and meditation, I go, oh, I'm really hungry. I didn't eat a lot today. I'm having these sensations in my body. I'm having this visceral response. I'm getting sweaty. It's almost like a withdrawal. It was almost like a withdrawal symptom for me, like somebody coming off drugs or alcohol. I need some sugar. I need some food. But that was it. And so I'd go eat something, and I wouldn't find myself binging. I noticed in my relationships, I wasn't reacting with my partner as much as I was before. Actually, it completely did a 360. I was able to really take everything that I have been taught, anything that has been mentored to me, anything that I've learned in school. I was actually able to apply them. I wasn't able to apply the tools before because I was so reactive. But I was able to stop and pause and go, okay, how is this working for me? Because I was so like, the world is working against me. The world is working against you. The world is never working against you. If we have that mindset, things will never work out for us. So, and I knew that. So I was able to reframe my language. I was able to stop and pause. My whole nervous system just shifts right from the core. And when that happens, life just changes. Life just opens up. Yeah, so to answer your question is I was able to actually incorporate the tools that I have been learning my whole life and actually apply them because I was no longer reacting. And life was no longer happening to me. It was happening for me, and everything was for me, and everything was a lesson. And I didn't take things so seriously. And the moment that I stopped doing it, because there have been times where I had a really crazy, hectic job there for a little bit, and I told myself I didn't have time. I did have time, but I told myself that. And I noticed that things started creeping up on me again, and I started getting very reactive, and very emotionally dysregulated. Meditation and breath is amazing for individuals. It's really amazing for anybody. Anybody can benefit from it, but who are emotionally dysregulated. Because when you're emotionally dysregulated, you react constantly to your emotions. You become a kind of like a slave to them in a way. They run the show. They completely run the show. And breath and meditation change that. They give you back your power. They put you back in the driver's seat. And I think a lot of people, I've always struggled with meditation, doing meditation alone. I found breath work the key to actually allowing me to settle into the meditation, because breath really gets the energy moving. Anything that's stagnant in the body, it's almost like a workout, because when you think about working out, you're moving all the energy, right? It's almost like a workout, but your body's not moving. It's still. So you're moving all that energy to actually then be able to settle in, become a little bit more still, become a little bit more silent. And then the meditation from there, whatever meditation you choose, because there's so many different, there's just so many ways you could do it. It just becomes that more potent for you. And yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I
Yeah.
come from the yoga and meditation space and came
Oh,
from
okay.
that to coaching. So I love what you're saying, and thank you so much for sharing this message, because that's truly also my experience, that it's one thing to understand like rationally all these tools, but it's truly like when you learn to meditate, no matter what meditation it is, you kind of create this space between your thoughts and like who you truly, and that allows you to like kind of like change how you're acting if you want to. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
And our breath is just a tool we have always with us. That's what I find so beautiful about the breath, that like whenever I notice that I'm stressed, the first thing that I'm paying attention to is like how I'm breathing. And mostly I'm holding my breath or breathing very shallow. So naturally the body is kind of like in a survival mode. And that's kind of like taking a deep breath when you're stressed. Like that already changes the game so much.
Yeah, you're totally right. And what I found too, as I should have mentioned before, is with breath work. So breath work essentially is actually, I don't like the word manipulating, but it is manipulating your breath a little bit. So it's having control over your breathing for a short amount of time, doing different. I do pranayama exercises. I also do holotropic breathing. So breath work can be getting into your body, but it can also be getting out of your body as well, depending on what you want to support. But what I found is with, 10 minutes of breath work a day, anytime that I was anxious, or anytime that just throughout the day, I would just naturally bring myself back to my breath. Like I was bringing a subconscious thing, right? Because we don't need to focus on our breathing. It just automatically happens. I made it conscious. And I didn't even have to think about that. I just, throughout the day, I would just go, what's my breath doing? Right? I wouldn't go, oh, are you breathing? I would just, oh, let's just notice the breath. And it just came so natural. So I found that throughout the day with the breath work, my breathings became a little bit deeper. I started breathing from my belly, not so much my chest. And anytime I was anxious, I would go, am I anxious because something is happening in my external world, or am I anxious because my breathing is shallow? Right? So it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Sometimes I go, maybe nothing is actually happening, and maybe my breath is just kind of going back to it's what it was used to, right? Because I've been breathing from the chest for so long, right? So to just, and I go, okay, and I just start breathing from the belly, and then I continue with my day. So a lot of times we're anxious because our breathing is so shallow, and usually our breathing is shallow is because we live in a very fast-paced world, right? So our breath is a direct reflection of how we are feeling emotionally and what is happening inside of our bodies. It's so powerful. And when we do breath work, the breath just naturally deepens throughout the day. It's a natural calming remedy, and it's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like the mind can influence the body as much as the body can influence the mind. It's just so amazing once we learn how to use both to our advantage instead of against.
Yes.
Want to share more about holotropic breathing with us? How it works, what it does? I would love to know more about that.
Yeah. Have you ever tried it?
No, or I had a breathwork session. Maybe it was holotropic breathing. I don't know, but like it was very deep and heavy breathing, and it brought me kind of like Radha in my subconscious state, and I felt very connected with my vision, the universe, and I was like, it was a very, very beautiful experience. To be honest, I don't know if that was holotropic breathing.
It could have been. I mean, it can be through the not, like I usually teach through the nose, so nostril breathing. But when I did it in Costa Rica, they gave me the option of doing it through the nose or the mouth. And it is quite intense. You usually do it for about an hour. And for the first 20 minutes, it's very like forceful breathing in and out. But then what happens is it sort of takes over, and your body just starts doing it on its own. For me, it was a very out of body experience, which I personally prefer more embodied experiences because I struggle with wanting to escape my body all the time. So I found it a little like arousing, and I found it actually quite stimulating, and it activated my sympathetic nervous system versus my parasympathetic nervous system. So it was a little different. You know, even when I'm talking about it, I'm getting a little sweaty, and my breathing's starting to like get a little bit shallow. So I know that's, for me, it's not the tool, but people absolutely love it. I know when I first did it, I had a full out of body experience. I remember looking in the mirror and seeing myself for the first time, like I remember looking at my eyes and going, I actually see myself for the first time. Like I wasn't seeing them in the way, I wasn't seeing myself in the way that I usually see myself, and that and in the way that people view me. I was looking into like my soul. I know that sounds sort of cheesy, but it was very, very, very cool. And like I said, people, I would show you an example now, but I haven't done it in so long. I would recommend just YouTubing it because there's also so many different ways to do it. But yeah, you do it to music as well, just like you would something like yoga. So it starts off very calm, and the music starts to get a little bit stronger, a little bit maybe more masculine. Your breathing gets heavier, and then there's sort of a cool down. But yeah, people have like some wild experiences, some wild experiences. And there's always a facilitator in the room as well, just to make sure that everybody is safe, because things can come up definitely for you.
I just
But yeah.
wanted to ask if this is probably something you should do with like a coach or a breathwork, somebody who's kind
Yeah.
of like guiding you through and who's there for you in case you experience very emotional things,
Yeah.
trauma comes up or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Definitely. But yeah, it's amazing to do, especially with a group of people as well, because I mean I love doing group work. I love doing one-on-ones, but I also love doing group work because it's not just the practitioner conducting and holding the container, it's everybody and it's everybody's energy, and it's just so much stronger and more potent. So doing holotropic breathing, doing any breath work in a group is you just all feed off each other, and you're all connected, you're all one. Nobody is separate, nobody's alone, everybody's in this together, and you feel connected to yourself and you feel connected to the people around you. And that, like, that is in itself is pure bliss. It's peace, it's joy, it's all the things that we maybe unknowingly want in our lives. We might not know that's what we want, but that's truly what we do want. And our whole purpose of being in these human bodies is to bring ourselves back to that peace, that joy,
That's
that connectiveness.
very
Yeah.
beautiful. Do
Yeah.
you hold sessions?
Do I hold sessions? So like I said at the beginning, I'm starting to do therapeutic breath work. So it's one-on-one or group sessions. So essentially what that looks like is about an hour. The first little bit, we just talk about anything that's coming up. I'll bring a lot of different, like I'll bring cognitive behavioral therapy or attitudinal healing or IFS, which is internal family systems. I'll bring some of that work into it in more of like a group therapy setting. And then from there, I will create a breathwork and meditation session for that particular group. So I'll show you, we'll do no more than 3 different breathwork techniques. And if I start to see the same people, I'll start to build on those techniques. And then I will cater a meditation again to that group. And I'll usually bring in like a therapeutic, like an IFS, which is again internal family systems, and that is actually going into the body, and getting curious with the mind as well. So I'll use that, but I'll use it more in a meditative setting, and yeah, kind of go from there. It's a lot of like inner child healing work, but that's sort of what the therapeutic breath work looks like. And then I also have a holistic practice. It's called the holistic practice. So, and what that is, it's coaching or counseling for the first bit. And then the last half hour is meditation and breath work. And I love that too, because that encompasses everything. And that's all one-on-one. So that works with the mind, the body, and the soul. And depending on the person, sometimes we'll go right into the body. Sometimes we will do more talk therapy and then slowly work our way into the body. And then from there, we'll go back up into the mind. And then, like I said before, we'll do the resorting, the reprogramming. We'll look at the beliefs. But I love to clear house, meaning I love to just clear the body first, get a clean slate, and then go up into the mind.
I love how you're really individually taking care of each client depending on their needs. That is so important, and especially in the kind of like whole internet era where it's like, I love that this is your approach. You
Thank
are
you.
also a Reiki practitioner, right?
Yeah,
Do you want to share more about that?
So I don't practice, like I don't do the typical Reiki, where there's like the bed and the person comes in, and I do the healing. I actually bring in the Reiki in my yoga classes. So I will kind of do a little prayer at the beginning. I'll turn on my Reiki. I will bring in the Reiki masters, and it's more the Reiki that I do is more, I bring it into the space. Just so I can feel, so I'm supported. So I feel supported. Or if I'm doing a one-on-one session, I'll bring in my Reiki masters, I'll bring in my ancestors, sort of, so I can now be a conduit. So the information is flowing through me, and I'm just sort of the messenger. So I'll use Reiki in that way. I use Reiki on myself a lot, and that's why I took the course. It wasn't so much to do it on other people, it was for myself. So I'll usually, because hands are very, very healing. And so what I'll do is I'll run, because I carry a lot of energy in my throat chakra. So I'll have my hands over my throat chakra, and I'll just sort of, like right now, it's actually quite warm because I've been talking a lot. But it's a very smooth and subtle energy that I'm feeling because I'm expressing myself. But if I'm not talking and I feel like I don't have a voice, it'll be very, very sore right here. If I feel like I'm not being seen or heard. So I'll usually take my hands and I'll just press it like this very gently. And it'll really help soothe me. So I use Reiki in that way. I don't do the traditional Reiki where I have a bed and I have the person there. And I think the big reason for that is because I think Reiki is great. I think it's amazing. I mean, I wouldn't have taken the course, but I also really love to empower people that they are self-healing beings and that I can guide and mentor them, but they really truly have everything they need to heal. And not even to heal, but to thrive, to have the things that they desire in their life. And so I like to bring Reiki in as a component, but I don't want it to be the only focus, because I don't ever want anyone to become reliant on me. Right? I'm not a guru. I'm not here to be put on a pedestal. None of that. I'm here to guide and support and to help show you the way. But I try and stay away from anything where the person becomes very reliant on me, because that's not empowering somebody. So yes, I love to bring in Reiki into what I do, but it's in a slightly different way. I love to teach. Like, if they want to know about Reiki, I will kind of teach them. You don't have to be attuned to help, to use your hands to help heal. So I'll teach them how to do that if they're interested. Yeah.
This is why I introduced you as the most caring person. You can truly feel how much you care about helping others, like empowering others and helping them thrive. That's so beautiful, and that can be felt so much. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
You mentioned the IFS therapy. Would you share more about that with us?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, I forget his name. I want to say it's something Schwartz. Anyways, he designed it, he created it. And essentially internal family systems works with parts. So there is our true self. I've talked a little bit about that. That is the part that is our birthright. That is not something that we have to do or create. It's within us. And those parts look like creativity. It looks like compassion. It looks like humor. So believe it or not, we are all actually funny in some in some way. Like that's not a trait that some people have and some people don't. Like innately, we actually all are funny. So we have there's like 7 or 8. There's like between 7 and 10, depending on who you're talking to. Innocence is one that I love to bring in. Wholeness as well. Like we are all whole. None of us are actually broken. I hear a lot of the time people saying like, I'm broken, and it's like, as a practitioner, I can't and I will not buy into that. I will hear them, and I will be able to empathize with them, and have that empathy. But I know as a practitioner, like, I am holding them in this light, like, you are full and you are complete. So IFS has these true parts, these real parts, the big S self, some people would call it. And then there's all these other parts, right? So for me, I am a daughter, I am a student, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor. I can be a little bit cranky sometimes. I can be insecure. So there's all these other parts. And so what IFS does is it looks at those parts that we might not necessarily like. So for me, there was a part of me that binged and then purged, right? And I really, really, really did not like that about myself. And so what IFS did was I actually went into these parts. So I went, okay, so there's part of me that binges. I went and I felt where in my body that was. And then I got to know that part. I got to know, does it have a name? Does it have a shape? Does it take on a sensation or a color? And I start talking to that part. So and what I'm doing is I'm actually bringing in my true self into those parts. So for instance, I'm bringing compassion and curiosity into these parts. And I start to realize that the binging, it's telling me something. It might actually have a purpose in my life. I just need to give it a new job. Just like the purging. The purging usually is my voice. It's because I feel like I can't speak. So the purging for me is saying, I need you to speak up more. I need you to go out and express yourself. I need you to move your body. I need you to talk more. I need you to talk about what's important, because you're not doing that. And so this is the only way that I can do it, is by, bringing up the food. And the binging for me showed that my life was very controlled. Everything was very precise. And the binging was like, let loose, have some fun, because my body and my mind it's a balancing act. If you're so restricted in so many areas of your life, I need to balance you out a little bit. So the binging is like complete chaos, right? Because you have no control. You feel like you have no control. So I started having empathy for these parts and saying, okay, so you're actually trying to serve a purpose. You're just really not doing it in a way that's benefiting me. So why don't we give you a new job? So my purging turned into this work. The vomiting that I experienced when I was in my eating disorder, is now this work. And so anytime that I feel that I'm perhaps navigating back towards those behaviors, I know that's not the issue. That's just a warning sign. That's just saying, hey, like, pay attention, go a little bit deeper. There's something that you're not doing that we want you to do, So you're not living your authentic true self. That's all it is. And so IFS showed me that. It's like, and then there's so much I could say on this. There's so many books on IFS and somatic work as well, which is what I do, which is the embodiment meditation piece. So you can bring IFS into more of the holistic sides of healing, which is exactly what I do in therapeutic breathwork, is I bring IFS into it. So I could talk about this. And I there's so much more that I could learn. Like, I'm just scratching the surface. I want to make that super clear. I'm just scratching the surface of this work. But there's so much that I can teach, and I could just help and guide and help people feel the shift, feel the change. So yes, that's my rant about IFS.
I could listen to you for more hours, I swear. It's so
Yeah.
fascinating. And yes, thank you so much for sharing all of this. And especially a big thank you for your work. It's really needed in the world. And for somebody who would like to work with you, where can we find you?
So my website, I don't know, it's www.theselfworthlounge.com. I have all my information is there. You can send me an email. There's a link there. You can go onto my Instagram as well, which is at the.selfworthlounge. I have, like, I run my whole site. I check my messages daily. So, and I love, like, even if people just want to chat and have questions, like I'm, they have a specific issue or something they want to work on. If it's not working with me, I can help direct them into a modality that I feel that would work best for them, because there's so many different modalities out there and there's so much information. It's hard to navigate through it. But I will say one last thing, and it's something that I have realized over the last couple of months, is that we can find anything that we want on Google, right? Like, if we want to heal from something, we Google it and it comes up with all this information. Hiring a coach or having a mentor or a counselor is more about having somebody walk alongside you. It's connecting with somebody who understands, who has the empathy. It's somebody who can keep you accountable. It's somebody that you are, money is energy. So it is something that it might be costly, but what happens is when we pay for something, we get 10 times more out of, we get way more out of it, because we are the financial exchange is a commitment on its own. So yes, people can go and download their free stuff, and I think that's amazing and it's great. But if you're finding that you're not sticking with it and that you're not getting the results you want, go find a coach, a counselor, a therapist, a mentor, a teacher that you feel connected to. Somebody whose energy you want to be a part of. Something that they have that you're like, I want a little bit of that. Because if you see that, if you go, I want a little bit of what they have, it's because you hold that within you, because that's also part of you. And that person will very likely help bring that out in you. So I think everybody in this world should have, one person that they sort of can go to for a couple months and then move on, right? And then maybe do stuff on their own and then find somebody else, a couple years later, a couple months later, a couple weeks later. I mean, I have a coach and mentor for so many different things. But yeah, I think that's kind of like what I really want to get across, because that's something that I've realized, because I do all this stuff and I thought I could do it on my own. I can't. If I want to help people, I have to seek the support myself. And the people who I get help from, it changes, every 4 or 5 months, because I get exactly what I need from it and I move forward. But it's so important, especially today when there's so much information out there. It's like, where do you start? And these people will help you navigate, and they will find your blind spots and they will expose them. A good therapist, coach will expose them in a very compassionate, caring way, and will get you to look at your stuff, because everything is a mirror. Everything in life is a mirror. If you don't like what somebody is saying and you disagree with them, that's fine. But that's because that's a reflection of yourself. There's something that person is bringing out inside of you. Doesn't mean that you need to condone the behavior. It doesn't mean that it's acceptable. It doesn't mean that you have to have them in your life. Gosh, no. No. Boundaries are so important. But it does mean that you have a responsibility to look at what that is bringing out in you, what beliefs you are holding. about yourself. And that person is a gift. That person is a sheer gift because that person is providing healing for you. And we need people around us to show us that, to remind us of that. So important.
Thank you so much. Thank you truly for your work. Thank you for all the vulnerability you showed in this conversation. I
Yeah.
feel it's so important. So I appreciated it so much. And I know every person listening appreciates that. And yeah, just thank you so much for your time. It was a beautiful conversation, and I hope we stay in touch. And
Yes.
Chanel.
Yes. And I think what you're doing is amazing. I took a look at some of your videos, and I think it's these conversations need to be had. And it's very healing for me as well
Thank
to
you.
feel connected to somebody, you know, that it's crazy because I feel like I mean, I just met you, but I feel this sheer connection with you. And that is so healing in itself. So yeah, thank you for the work that you're doing. Truly.
Thank you
It's
so much.
awesome.
You truly, I'm close to tearing up. So thank you so much. Just really
Yeah.
got a point, and I truly feel the same. And I have this feeling we'll meet at Yoga Barn.
Yes. Yes.
I'm putting it out in the universe right now, but I have
Okay.
this feeling we'll meet at Yoga Barn.
Okay. Thank you. We will keep in touch.
So thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, I would like to know from you, what was your biggest takeaway and how can you put it into action starting now? Leave a comment below or hop over to Instagram at HannahWiz_ and leave a comment under the post of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode and never forget to shine your light.